I built a commander deck from the Magic TCG. So I thought I'd go over this deck list. Now, I am not a good deck builder. This is in fact my first deck I've ever owned of Magic. So if there's any hints, tips, tricks, anything to let me upgrade this to be better and more competitive, let's say, then I would be more than happy to take you guys' suggestion. But let's get on with it. So first of all, the commander I'm using here is Radha, heir to Keld. I'm not even sure how to say a lot of these words. So whenever the commander here, Radha, attacks, you get to add 2 fire. As you can see, I'm going with Gruul, red and green. You get to add 2 fire when it swings to the mana pool. So every time you swing, you get 2 extra fire energy, red energy to use. Or you can just flat out tap it and it's you get to add a green to your mana pool. So by turn 2, you're able to lay down, if you can get your red and green mana, tap it and you've got 3, or you can swing and you've got an extra 4 on turn 3 as it is. Let's go over the lands. So I've got some basic lands here, obviously. This land is a Sunscorched. It deals 1 damage to your opponent when you enter. These are just some lands my brother had laying around. I don't know the best lands to put in here, like dual lands and stuff, so most of these are basic, but I do have this one that adds a colorless and puts a damage counter on my opponent. I've got this one that enters tapped, and then it provides you a red or a green, and then after that I have a bunch of basic lands. Now I have, I believe, 40 lands in total. I have 20 green and 20 red. That 20 is including these like this, that includes the dual colors and stuff. Now over here on the red, we have 20 of these. Have this one. This one makes you pay a life to be able, or pay an energy to be able to use this to play this down, otherwise it kills itself. But this is a mana of any color, so I could play, literally I could play any color with this, blue, red, blue, you know, black, whatever. And I have another one here. This one lets you gain a life and then lets you have a red and a green when you tap it, and then the rest of it is basic lands. Now I haven't had a problem running out of lands. Everything seems to always be fine. My mana drops have always been great, but I realize 40 may be a lot for some people, and I don't know like what the good play area, like the good time, you know, what is the best land count to run. I know with this guy right here, if I can get him out by turn 2, by turn 3 I've got 5 mana, and it just ramps from there, and it gets, you know, it just gets even better. Now over here I have 1 Planeswalker in the deck. It's this lady right here, Jaya Ballard. For +1, it adds 3 red mana, but I can only use those to cast instant or sorcery, so that's a little bit of a bummer, no creature spells. I also have a +1 that says discard up to 3 cards, and then you may draw that many cards, so this is a good draw card, or draw engine if you can get it out. Its -8 is you get an emblem with, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from your graveyard. If you do from the graveyard, then they are exiled, so a really good card to have. I've got a couple other things in here. This one deals a little bit of damage when you play it. This one allows you to tap down your opponent's I almost said Pokemon creatures so they cannot block. This one says if you tap it, target creature cannot untap. This one, target creature gains haste until the end of turn. This one's really good. You get it out on turn 1. It usually sticks around if you don't swing with it, and you're able to just give your big guys that you put out haste every turn. Creature Torch Carrier. This one is kind of the same way, only you have to sack it to give them haste. A big charging Monsardasar, big old dinosaur. I just got it because it's a 5/5. It does a lot of damage and it has haste and trample. We got another one with haste here, a Pit Fighter, Kamal Pit Fighter. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player when you tap it. So I like to do a lot of just offside damage when I can. And then we got this one right here, this Catalyst Elemental, and it says when you sacrifice it, you get to add two red to your mana pool. So really good for a little bit of mana ramp there. Let's move on to some of the dual colors. I actually have 3 dual colors here. We got Draconic Disciple. You can tap it to add a mana of any color, so a little bit more mana ramp. It comes out for 3 energy, which isn't bad. And for 7, you can sacrifice it and create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. Also, this is kind of a dragon deck, by the way. The next one I have is a Human Warrior Rubble Belt Raiders. It is a 4-drop, and whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it for each of your other creatures you control. So whenever you're attacking, if you attack with 3 other creatures besides this one, you get to put a 3 1/1 counters on this guy. Really good. It builds up really fast if you can establish a big board. And then I've got Burning Tree Emissary. It comes in for 2, but when you play it, you also get a red and a green mana. So you really play it for free. That's one of the reasons I play it. It's just a way to get it out there, just another body to block with. Now let's get into some of the green aspect of this deck. I run a variance of different creatures. I'm not going to go through every one of them in detail, but some of them are there for a reason. This guy right here has Trample, Garruk's Horde. The main reason I'll play this though is you get to play with the top card of your deck revealed. So if you have 7 cards in your hand, you basically have an 8-card deck. You always know what's coming. This guy right here is amazing. This is just a big worm. It's a 6/6, just a big body to block and attack with. This Hydra right here, if you got markers, you have these 3 energy counters, and you can spin those energy counters to give it hexproof. You have the Spider right here that it has reach, so not bad. This one right here comes in for 2. It allows you to put a 1/1 counter on a target creature you control. This one allows you to create a 2/2 green and white Elf Knight with vigilance, or destroy a target artifact or enchantment. So this is pretty good for getting rid of artifacts and enchantments. I have used it more to create the Elf Knight, but it is what it is. The Siege Worm here, I play it because it is a 5/5 with Trample. I like Trample and I like Haste. They are 2 of my favorite things in the deck. Play the Generous Stray because when you play it, it allows you to draw a card. This deck seems to need a more card advantage. Its draw power is pretty low. When Ambassador Oak enters, you get to create a 1/1 green elf token. Honestly, this could go. When I find a better card with draw advantage, this will definitely go. Charging Binox, this one has Trample, and if you're playing in a 4/4 commander, another player can pay up to 7 of the cost to cast this thing. Fertilid. When it enters the battlefield, it has 2 1/1 counters on it. For each 1/1 counter, you can take off a 1/1 counter and get a basic land and put it into the battlefield tapped. So a little bit of mana ramp there. Got Raiders. It has a haste, and when it enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each creature in your graveyard. So if they've just been running through your creatures, or you've been getting rid of them real quick, you can get a pretty big guy up and running. Another worm here. This is just another body for blocking. It's just a vanilla worm. We got one here with Defender. It's a creature. It's a plant wall. It's a little bit of draw power because you can pay 2 and sack it and then draw a card. It's not really efficient, but it's all I have at the time. I built this deck out of my brother's cards because I don't have any of my own. Then we got Vigor Spore Worm. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gains Vigilance and gets +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard. So you can make this guy a really big guy, or make one of your other guys pretty big to be able to stand up to whatever's going on. And then last we have Wood Elves. When they enter into play, you may search your deck for a force card and put it into play, then shuffle your library. So a little bit of more mana ramp there, able to get going and mainly just get those manas up so you can get to the big drops, which I will show you in a minute. So let's get on to some of the reds that can either come or go, stay or go. It doesn't, not really sure that it matters. These actually right here, which I've already showed you. But we will get on, where are my instants? Oh, here's my instance. Okay, so let's go on to the instance right now. Let's go through the greens. So we have Verdant Rebirth. Until the end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to its owner's hand, and then draw 1 card. Most of the time I find myself playing this on that cat that allows me to draw a card whenever it dies, or whenever I play it. So what you do is you play this, you draw a card, you put the effect on the cat swings, they block the cat for whatever reason, and it goes back to your hand. and then you play it again to get another card. We have Rampant Growth. Search your deck for a basic land and put that card in the battlefield tapped, so a little bit of mana ramp. And then we have Circuitous Route. It does the same thing, only allows you to get 2 basic lands and put them onto the battlefield. Next, we're into the red cards. Electrify. It deals 4 damage to target creature. Instant does, or Instant Shock does 2 damage to any creature. Alchemist Greeting does 4 damage to target creature, and then you can also cast it from the graveyard using Madness. Welding Sparks does an amount of damage. It does 3 plus the amount of artifacts you control, which we'll get to that in a minute later. So at a minimum, it does 3 damage, possibly more. Then we have Expedite, and then this says your target creature gains haste and draw a card. And then we'll move on to the artifacts over here. And first off, we have the Sol Ring, because Sol Ring is a turn 1 busted play. When you play it, you get to add 2 mana to your mana pool every time you tap it. We have a Seer's Lantern. It's a little bit expensive for mana cost, but it allows you to tap 2 and scry 1. That's really good for wanting to know what your top deck is, and seeing if it's something you need. If you miss your mana drops, then it's good to have this to be able to see what the top deck is. We have a Hierophant's Chalice. This, when you play it, when it enters, your opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, and then it is a colorless mana that you can tap down. We have a Mind's Eye. Whenever your opponent draws a card, you may pay 1 energy. If you do, draw a card. Really good to have, because you're getting, in a 4-player game, you're getting 3 cards per turn if you have the mana open. We got Rogue's Gloves. When you attach these to a creature and it deals damage, then you get to draw a card. We have this Pendulum. When you play it, you gain 3 life, and then you have to pay 5 and break it, and you get, or sacrifice it, and you get to draw a card. Not the best, but it's a decent little card draw when I don't have anything different. We have the Forebear's Blade. When it's equipped, a creature gets +3, +0, has Vigilance and Trample. Whenever the creature dies, this goes to a different target. Next we have Mirage Mirror. For 2 you get to equip, or for 2 you get to use it, and it becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until the end of turn. So this right here can turn into anything. It can be a good blocker, be a good attacker, be a good mana source, or whatever. It is all around pretty good thing to have. Now we'll get into the main attackers of this deck, the main thing that makes the deck function well, puts out the damage, and has gotten me several wins. Now this is, of course, in the circles that I play in, so like I said, I don't really 100% know if this is the best layout, but I'm working on it and we'll get there. We have a Dragon Mage. It has flying. When it deals damage, each player discards their hand and draws 7. So it's really good if you are stuck and you just need that card advantage in your hand. We have a Spark Tongue Dragon. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, it deals 3 damage to any target, pecking off anything that's small that might block you, or just knocking out an opponent that's real low. Next, we have Forge Stoker Dragon. It has flying. Pay 2, it deals 1 damage to target creature. That creature cannot block this combat. Activate this ability only if it's attacking. So it's a good way to tap down a blocker that an enemy might throw at you. We have Utvara. It has flying, and whenever a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying. So this right here is a good way to just build your board up. If you can get this guy out and then attack with a bunch of your other dragons, you can just put out a 6/6 red dragon with flying for every one of them that attacks. We have the Whelp. It has flying. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature defending player control. So whoever you're attacking takes a damage on their creature. And then we have the Charger. It has flying and haste. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 7 energy. If you do, untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So if you can pull it off, you get to attack twice in 1 turn. It's pretty good. We have the Hunted Dragon. It has flying and haste. When Hunted Dragon enters the battlefield, target opponent puts 3 2/2 White Knight creature tokens with first strike onto the battlefield. But you can fly over those, so it ain't that big of a deal. We have the Shivan Dragon with flying, 1 fire. It gets a +1/+0 until the end of turn. So basically, if you have a bunch of red open, you can pump this thing up really big. We have the Predator Dragon with Flying and Haste and Devour. Devour means that it can basically, it eats your other battle cards on the field, and it puts a +1/+1 counter for each one it eats. I was going to say till the end of turn, but it looks like it's the entire game, or until it dies. Imperial, Flying, Morph 6, 7, 8. It morphs for 8, or you can play it for 3 face down as a 2/2 until you're ready to morph it. When Imperial is turned face up, you may search your library for a dragon card, reveal it, and put it to your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. So it's a good way to just draw out more dragon cards. The next one is Tyrant's Familiar, Flying and Haste. As long as you control your commander, it gets a +2/+2, and has, whenever Tyrant's Familiar is attacked, it does 7 damage to target creatures defender player controls. So when this thing attacks, you get to put 7 damage pretty much anywhere on your opponent's creatures, knocking them out before they can block. Next we have Thunder Maw, Flying Haste. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature with flying. Your opponent's control, tap those creatures. We have Bargadon, Flash and Flying, so that you can bring this out at a moment's notice for a little bit of defense. When it enters the battlefield, it does 5 damage. Divide it as you choose among any number of targets. Knock out several creatures all at once. We have Varric's Bladewing, Kicker for 3, Flying. When Varric's Bladewing enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create Carrick's Bladewing, a legendary 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So that's pretty much it for the major hitters of the deck. Let me know what you think. Let me know the best way to build this if there's things I absolutely need, and we'll see you next time.